Welcome to Knowledge Gumbo Conversations. Uh, my name is Alicia Thomas, and I'm here to converse on things that affect African American women of Gen X and higher. And in order to do that, I just wanted to start off by pulling some things out of the newsletter that I put out every week on Fridays. It's called rebranded to the Knowledge Gumbo newsletter, currently called the Gumbo newsletter on its own. And in my intro to last week's newsletter, I talked about Black being more of a culture as being a naming for race, because we know race is a social construct, that we're all human beings. We all originate from the same Black women. Depending on where we live, has determined over generations the tone of our skin color, but we are all the same deep down in origin. And so, as I'm rebranding everything under Knowledge Gumbo, or really under the Gumbo Collective, I'm looking at it from the standpoint of I want to focus on Black as a culture as opposed to Black as a race, because we each have value no matter what our quote unquote race is, but we need to have and look at value as a culture, because when we think about Black culture, it's it's a gumbo pot. It's a mixture of different African tribes that were brought over here. It's a mixture of people from the Caribbean that came here. It's a mixture of people of color, both native and Black, that were already here when Columbus, quote unquote, discovered America. There's a amalgamation, a melting pot, just like gumbo, that makes up what is Black culture. It's not just one thing, it's plenty of little different things that add spice and flavor to our culture and what we bring to the table in this country and across the world. And I find that very interesting, because before I was more worried about that I was going to edge people out of the conversation by focusing on race, because it's such a divisive thing. But when you really analyze Black, it's not really about race, it's about culture. And we transitioned in our names trying to find our culture, where you went from Negro to colored to, you know, Afro American, and transitioned to African American, especially during the time that Jesse Jackson was running for president. He really pushed that because they wanted us to tie ourselves back to Africa. But when we look at in terms of culture, and you think of like Irish Americans or Polish Americans, they tie themselves back to one country. But when we say African American, we're tying ourselves to a continent. And we all come from different countries in that continent. If I remember correctly, I believe there's like 50 plus countries that make up the continent of Africa. So again, in doing that, we're still saying we're a gumbo pot of different flavors coming from different countries all over a continent. And we're not all the same. We're different. We're doing things um that make up a, what I want to say, a richness, a fullness. It's not just, if we use cooking terms, it's not just the salt and pepper. It's adding, some garlic powder. It's adding some thyme, some oregano. It's adding, maybe even some sugar or whatever. But it's a culmination of different things that makes the flavor pop and come alive. And I think that's a good way to look at it, especially in the times that we are living in right now, because it is so um what's the right word? It is so divisive right now. It is so right against left, blue against red, Christian against non-Christian, in the sense that we're all being judgmental, we're all being critical, we're all saying that I'm better than you, when really we are all the same. And we have to realize that underneath everything, we're the same. The only things that we differ in is our experiences and the things that we hold true to believe, and in the culture in which we were raised. And I think that's critical for us to honor our culture, but to be open to learning other people's cultures. We focus so much on the differences, we don't look for ways that we are the same. And we don't respect the differences of other people, whether you agree with them or not. It doesn't mean that you have to disrespect someone or disrespect what they believe or hold true. I can agree to disagree and not be rude, mean, vindictive about any of it. We have a purpose, I think, as older people, as women in my generation of Gen X. We are now becoming the elders as our grandparents and parents pass on, as our aunts and uncles are transitioning. And I think we need to take the bull by the horn and lead us in a different direction. It is not up to us to continue with status quo. I think we need to take responsibility, because what I like to lean on, especially lately, is I am responsible no matter who is at fault. And what I mean by that is I have to take responsibility for how I react, for what I say, for how I live my life. And it doesn't matter the outside circumstances. Like, if you were treated bad as a kid by your parents or your grandparents, or and you just wanted to get out of the house, but you want to blame them for everything that's gone wrong, and now you're 40, 50, 60 years old, that's bogus. You have to take responsibility for your life now. You have to release what was done to you before and just keep it moving. At least that's the way I'm looking at it. I'm taking responsibility for me, and I'm not putting the blame on other people. And like in Mel Robbins' book, The Let Them Theory, we have to evolve to let people be who people are going to be. And in the words of Maya Angelou, when people show you who they are, we have to believe them. It is not your job to mother other people. You can be a source of information, you can be a sounding board, but they have to take responsibility and change and be who they are and who they aren't. And I think that is essential going forward, and something that we need to transition and give to the generations behind us. It seems like all the generations are kind of fighting of, oh, you do this and you do that and you don't understand this and you don't understand that. Instead of poking fun, instead of we need to build bridges instead of digging ditches and creating moats that separate us. We need to build bridges that bring us together and respect the differences between the generations, but find pockets of where, at the core, we are all the same, or we should all be the same at the core. Things that we can agree upon across the board. So that was what I was jumping off in my head last week when the newsletter came out. Again, it's coming out this Friday. If you're interested, you can go to my website at www.aliciatsays.com and you can sign up for the newsletter. I don't spam you, I don't inundate you with tons and tons of emails. Mainly, it's just the newsletter. You might get an occasional informational thing here and there, but for the most part, it's just once a week and it's the newsletter itself. So we would love to have you join our Knowledge Gumbo family. Come in the kitchen, pull up a chair, pull out a bowl, have a little bit of gumbo with us, and share some love, share some information, get some education. One of the things or segments I would like to do going forward on this is, and I kind of borrowed this from Angie Martinez in her radio show. It is, if I'm not mistaken, excuse me, it is called Check It. I think, what's the right word for it? It is, uh-oh. It's called Check It or Skip It, something like that. I'll get everything worked out going forward. But I think I'd like to look at it from the standpoint of, as we go forward, let me get this right. I'm trying to find, because the funny part is I'm working on transitioning everything into Notion databases so I can find it. So I'm not looking like I'm looking now, trying to find everything. And learning Notion has been really, really interesting for me. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Notion, but it's interesting, very interesting software. The main thing I like about it is everything is going to be in the same place. So I'm not looking at, different files and trying to find where I put this and where I put that. So um let's see here. I don't think I'm going to find it. So maybe it'll be something I have to pull out next week. My fault for not being as organized as I would like, but I didn't want to make any more excuses about going live. I want to start doing this every week. I'm going to find a day and time that works consistently, but for right now, it'll probably be Wednesdays at 7. And then I will go from there of where we want to go. And like I said before, what I'm talking about, Usually it's going to start off with something that we've discussed in the newsletter. Want to create conversation and get people interested in things like that. And then gonna have these two segments, of course, of which now I can't even find what I was looking at. But I promise by next week I'll have all of them in my Notion database and it'll be on and popping. But the other section that I kind of want to create every week is called What Else Don't I Know? The reason I even started going down this rabbit hole of finding out about the stories of Black women was, of course, based on watching um, the movie Hidden Figures, because I am a engineer by trade and I knew nothing of these women. And in doing so, I started asking myself that question about Black history with the bent toward Black women is what else don't I know? So, what I'm sharing today for what else don't I know is that in certain areas of the South during Jim Crow, during segregation, Black people were not allowed to eat vanilla ice cream. Can you imagine that? They were not allowed to eat vanilla ice cream. It wasn't like across the countrywide, but mainly in the South, in specific towns, it was a given that they were not, Black people were not served vanilla ice cream at all because the vanilla, quote unquote, carried a certain weight about it and they would not sell them vanilla ice cream except for on 4th of July in some places was the only time Black folks could purchase vanilla ice cream. We have things like this documented in books by like Zora Neale Hurston in her chronicles of getting stories and gathering stories of Blacks in the South. She documented how they couldn't eat it in Jim Crow. And of course, the white uh, restaurants and things of that nature would not serve Black people, and if they had an area in the back where they did serve them, they would not serve them vanilla ice cream. And I just thought that was the wildest thing ever. It's like you don't serve vanilla ice cream. Is that segregated? The hatred, the self-loathing on their parts goes that deep that you take it to a dessert? It's just wild to me. But from what I'm learning too, is just like that wasn't the only thing that Blacks were forbidden, but I just found that really interesting that they were not allowed to eat, purchase, eat, distribute vanilla ice cream. And so it's just wild. I don't know another way to say how deep the hatred must go for you to say that people are not worthy of a certain kind of food because of the color of the food. And when I think about that and I look at what's happening with us right now, in this country right now, I think we're heading back in that direction. And so, one of the reasons I want to share some of this Black history is because I want us to know. Because when we don't know our history, we are doomed to repeat the bad things that happen. But I think if we teach the right Black history, we can expand on the good things that happen. So I'm going to wrap up here, and I appreciate your time and your attention. I'll be back next week with another episode of Knowledge Gumbo Conversations. And hopefully each week, as we expand, get more people, we'll have more conversation, we'll have more dialogue. I don't want this to be a lecture kind of thing. I like bouncing things off of people. I like getting other people's ideas going here and there. And I think we could have something really awesome if we're just willing to open up and be willing to have those conversations. So take care of yourself. Be good to yourself. Be kind. Be gentle. Be loving. But also be true to yourself. Be hard on yourself in the way that you're telling yourself the truth. And like I said before, where you're taking responsibility, no matter who or what is at fault. And we'll see you next week.